was not free. Like I didn't let my heart. There's something that I don't know. It's gonna sound like ironic, but use your intuition. Okay, I'm not saying like you should lead your brain. I'm just saying with reading more, educating yourself about the religion, about everything, looking from different sources, the right sources, of course, and also using your intuition. Okay, because when you use your brain so much filled with thoughts, you ignore your intuition. I don't know if intuition makes any sense to anybody, but it makes sense to me, right? So it's kind of hard because it's a personal experience. And also, when you just let go. Let me finish.
Yeah.
When you let go of all the ego, of all the preconceived notions that is wrong, okay? Because sometimes when you read the Quran, okay, I have preconceived notion that the Quran is this, is that, okay? And also when you let out ego, when you be humble, when you use all these things to perceive Quran, you will then get the meaning. But if you're someone who has ego, like I'm not saying ego, like even if 1% of ego can deter you from understanding Quran, okay? You gotta let go of all of that and just objectively look at it. So that's how I got to the path. I mean, it doesn't. You're probably gonna say it doesn't mean whatever you said. It's not gonna mean anything to me, and that's fine. I laid out my thoughts.
That's not what I'm gonna say. I was just like, I think I asked a pretty clear question, and that like your backstory, it's interesting. Thank you. I'm just curious because it was actually reading the Quran that made me like leave Islam, and I tried to get my faith back for many years.
I would say, what's the one thing that helped me?
Hold on. I was just going to say it was actually a very stressful experience for me because I was very young, right?
Yeah.
But reading about like the fantastical stories and many things, I just wasn't able to believe it. And the more I tried to gain my faith, the further it went away. So I just want to know what it is about the Quran that makes you so confident that it's from a divine source.
Okay, so I would say. Around 2 months ago, I had the change, right? So what happened is, it was actually coincided. It was way back actually. It's what coincides with the period when when the Mawlid al-Nabi, like the birth of the Prophet, right? So and at that time I thought about reading about the Sirah, the life of the Prophet. Why don't you like give a little bit of time to read about the life of the Prophet? Because everything stemmed back to the messenger, right? Because he's the one that had revelations. So if you read about the Sirah, you understand that this guy is no way could be lying. I know that you're gonna say no, he's not lying. He's like having hallucinations. Well, no, he's completely reasonable. He's completely mindful person. He's the most mindful mind you can ever meet, right? So I just want you. I'm not actually like that came from a lot of knowledge. Okay, that didn't came because I have emotions. Okay, let me finish. You would just have to put a little bit of time to read about the Sirah, the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, right? So do that, and that's it.
Sure, but again, like maybe you're not understanding my question. You said that when you read the Quran or when you read the Quran, it was very clear to you. Right?
Yeah, after I studied, after I did my research, you have to do a little bit of research.
Sure.
Explain to me like the main finding that made you determine that this was of a divine source. If you may,
I told you, you have to let go of ego. You have to let go of all these preconceived notions. You have to be humble.
Sir, can I ask you
something?
Are
you not understanding the question?
Sir, can I ask you something?
Listen, that's...
Sir, can I ask something? You said, Mohammed, you read the Sirah, and Mohammed cannot possibly lie. How about the convenient revelations? For example, in my estimation,
hold on. What's the convenient revelation? What does that mean? Convenient.
Let me read you. Let me refer to one. In my estimation, one second, sir. In my estimation, Mohammed is the most obvious liar in human history. He's childish.
Okay, that's to you.
Okay,
that's to you. I don't respect that, by the way.
Yes.
Please let him finish and then respond.
Yes. Okay. So there is in the Quran, there is a verse that says that Muhammad was bored to have visitors too early for dinner, and then God gave a revelation and advise, because Muhammad was shy and advised his visitors to not come early for dinner. Is that a good lie, or is the most ridiculous lie in human history?
I've never heard of that. I want the source.
Yes, okay.
I want the source.
Yeah.
Give me the link.
I will give you.
Add me
It's
and
in the
give me the
Quran. I will give you. Okay.
Yes.
I will give you in just a minute.
Okay. Do you know anything about that, Halal? Anybody here? You know anything about that?
Yeah, it's 33:53. That's the Quran verse. And
What is the name of the surah?
The name of it, it's Surat al-Ahzab.
Okay, what's the verse? 33?
So 33:53.
You want
Says,
me to
"Oh,
read
you-"
it, sir? You want, because I found it.
Yes, okay, 33. Let's go.
O you who believe, do not.
What is that? What?
Okay. Do you?
33 al-Ahzab?
This is okay. Let me read you the verse. O you who believe, do not enter the houses of the prophet unless you are permitted for a meal, not so early as to wait for its preparation, but when you are invited, go inside. Then once you had the meal, just disperse and do not sit for long, being king for a chat. This conduct of yours hurts the prophet, but he feels shy of telling you. But Allah is not shy of the truth. And when you ask, okay, so in this verse, sir, Muhammad made Allah his butler. So is this
Give me
a lie?
the tafsir. What's the tafsir? What's
The
the tafsir?
tafsir is that Muhammad was bored visitors to coming early for dinner and chatting.
No,
with
you
him.
didn't understand my question. I mean, there's a lot of tafsirs. You know what a tafsir is?
Sir,
Someone's running the commentaries.
yes, I know what tafsir. The context is
Steering your friend.
Sir, okay.
With you, man. I'm with you.
Okay.
Finish the interpretation.
What I'm saying is that there are many verses that we call them convenient revelations, that the only purpose seems to help Muhammad. For example, there is another verse that describes how many women Muhammad can have intercourse with. What's that for God? So you say
I don't know what's lying. I don't know
Muhammad.
what's lying. Listen, I don't know what's
Muhammad
lying
can
about.
reject any
Surah
wife.
33.
So what he's
There's
saying,
also
what he's
some
okay. So I know what he's
high
saying.
wisdom in the
He's
Quran.
saying it seems like the prophet is using this as an excuse. So the prophet is making stuff up for his own benefit. That's what
Yeah.
he's saying, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But the response to this is you claim that he lied. This is just you making your own interpretation of what you think, and this is just you.
Okay, let me
giving your own
respond. Let me
opinion,
respond
right?
to that.
But
A couple of minutes ago,
wait one sec, please. The fact of the matter is the prophet had his right. You know, when he had his right that he could, one of his like privileges, right?
Yeah.
Of him having the right to like what's it called? The privilege. I forgot the name. Where you can like
He has
have a
16
wife if you want to.
privileges.
yes, I can read
One
you
of them. One of them, right?
You can have more
And
than
then he-
4. He
Yeah,
could
but
deny
one
the
of
women
them-
that tried to. Yeah.
16
You
privileges.
could steal
Yeah.
someone else's wife. Yeah, there's so many privileges that he
Yeah,
has.
he never used the one where he could take someone else's wife.
Yes, he
right?
does, and they give examples of that.
which one,
Like
Zainab?
they give the story of Zainab.
Yeah, that's Hadith Taif, and the
It's not daif.
thing
That's
is
accepted
daif,
by the
it's
Islamic
all-
community.
no,
What?
it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. No,
Yes, it
I
is.
looked
It's not
into
daif
it.
at all.
This
No,
is
I
ridiculous.
looked into it, and the thing that you're talking about where he flirts with her, that's what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. he
Yeah, this is
took-
not accepted. This is not accepted.
Zainab, who then gives his wife to the Prophet. Yeah.
To be fair,
Yeah, it's
using
not. There's,
daif as an excuse is a daif excuse.
I want to talk about Muhammad and his desire for women, in this case, a very special woman. Zainab, Muhammad's cousin and the wife of his adopted son, Zayd. The story, as far as we can acquire it from Islamic sources, is as follows. Zayd, who was enslaved at a young age, was sold into slavery in Mecca, where he was given to Muhammad's boss, Khadija. When Muhammad and Khadija got married, Khadija gave the slave boy, Zayd, as a gift to Muhammad, who became very attached to him. When the family of Zayd came to buy him out of slavery, Zayd chose to stay with Muhammad, who then announced him his son. So he adopted him, basically. Much later, Muhammad suggested that Zayd should marry his cousin Zainab. She refused first due to her status and because Zayd was a former slave. But then Muhammad turned that suggestion into an order and released the Quran verse. It is not for a believing man or a believing woman, when Allah and His Messenger have decided a matter, that they should thereafter have any choice about their affair. And whoever disobeys Allah and His Messenger has certainly strayed into clear error. Chapter 33, verse 36. A Quran verse that basically tells Muslims to completely obey to the will of not only Allah, but also Muhammad himself. I like using this Quran verse. I do it very often when I discuss with Muslims. Now Zainab had to marry Zayd, but the marriage didn't last very long. The following story can be found in the scriptures of Tabari, a very famous interpreter and historian of the early times of Islam. A year later, Muhammad visited the house of Zayd to talk to him, but Zayd was not at home, so that his wife Zainab opened the door scantily dressed, thinking that it is Zayd at the door. When Muhammad saw her that way, he was shocked and he was very impressed with what he saw. He left the house afterwards and Zainab told her husband Zayd about the story. Zayd, having problems with Zainab already, visited Muhammad and told him that he can have his wife, because the marriage isn't going very well anyway. But Muhammad told him to keep his wife and to fear God. What Zayd didn't know at this point was that Muhammad really wanted a piece of that Zainab. Not long after that, Zayd divorced Zainab. And guess what happened? Muhammad married her immediately and released the Quran verse. Let's see what the Quran verse says about Muhammad and his desire for Zainab. And remember, O Muhammad, when you say it to the one on whom Allah bestowed favor and you bestowed favor, keep your wife and fear Allah, while you concealed within yourself that which Allah is to disclose. And you feared the people, while Allah is more right that you fear Him. So when Zayd had no longer any need for her, we married her to you, in order that there not be upon the believers any discomfort concerning the wives of their adopted sons, when they no longer have need of them. And ever is the command of Allah accomplished. Chapter 33, verse 37.
So, there cannot possibly be a liar, Muhammad. First, used Allah to tell his visitors to not come early for dinner. He was bored to chat and he was shy. So Allah came, Allah sent a revelation, and he advised Muhammad's visitors not to come early for dinner and chat because he is bored. In other words, Allah was waiting at eternity in heaven to tell Muhammad's visitors not to come early for dinner. So the obvious non-liar, Muhammad, then had a revelation from God urging him to keep his adopted son's wife. And look the excuse Allah gives for this ruling. In order for that to be an example for anyone who wishes to marry the wife of his adopted son, to do so. So Allah here cares about the severe social problem of people wishing to marry their adopted sons, wives, and they were confused if they were permitted to. So, Allah cares now about people. Guys, those lies, not even 8-year-olds can make. Okay. If an 8-year-old make this kind of lie, they will close him to a mental institute. You say, my dear friend, Muhammad cannot possibly lie. I say, Muhammad is by no doubt the most obvious silly liar in human history. I mean, you need to be crazy to make this kind of lies. Okay. The arrogance of this liar was, okay, he thought he was talking to donkeys. There is no other explanation. This guy didn't thought he was talking to humans. He thought he was talking to donkeys.
So what the Quran is saying here is that Muhammad indeed desired Zainab, whom he married to his adopted son, while she was still married to his adopted son. And that is no problem for Muslims. That is absolutely no problem. Muhammad sexually desires the wife of his adopted son while they are still married, and Muslims have no problem with that. There is no dispute about this. That's what the Quran verse says. We can look at it again. It says, while you concealed within yourself that which Allah is to disclose. Incredible, isn't it? The Arabs didn't really like this, and they confronted Muhammad because in that time, marrying the wife or the former wife of your adopted son was considered incest and extremely immoral. What did Muhammad do? He solved the problem by declaring that it is Allah's will that Allah married him to her, not he himself, and also declared that adoptive sons are not really real sons, so it's not really incest, you know. Yes, he revealed the Quran verse again for his own needs, for his own desires, and solved the problem completely through his claim that Allah speaks to him and Allah marries him to Zainab. Afterwards, adoption was abolished.
So let me get that straight, my dear Muslim friends, who I, believe it or not, I love Muslim people. Let me get that straight. So God abolished adoption. The most humane thing ever. There isn't a more humane thing ever. And God abolishes adoption. You believe that? That God abolishes adoption. So Mohammed can marry his adopted son's wife. Because, why, Mohammed? I mean, you only have 11 wives. Why you shouldn't have 12? So God was so worried for the well-being of Muhammad that he said, look, I will abolish adoption for humanity, for the rest of history. But I really care for Muhammad to have 12 wives, not just 11. Not just 11 wives and sex slaves. And we wanted Muhammad to have more. You really think that happened?
Well, the problem with Daif argument is that Daif is still accepted. It's a modern.
so-
It's actually a modern view now for Muslims that
You're
Daif
funny.
doesn't pass.
It's
So
not
the
Daif.
only-
passes,
I'll
man.
explain.
That's
I'll
not
explain. The
Daif,
only-
first of all. That's not Daif.
No,
That's
it
It's
is
not
Daif.
Daif.
President
Exactly.
Eisenhower,
Even
isn't
to the
it
point.
true that
It's Daif.
the original scholars used Daif to create Sharia
Yes, they
law?
did. Bukhari used Daif
Oh.
hadiths. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani
no.
used Daif hadiths.
No.
Yes, they did. To prove points. Yes, they did.
Show me proof.
Sure, I
Show
can
me
read you.
proof.
I can read you an excerpt from Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani's
Wait.
writings, where he says that
Okay,
Daif
before-
hadiths pass. They are
Okay,
not to be
before-
rejected.
Yeah. So before you show me this, I'm gonna tell you when Hadith Daif are accepted, right? So the only time the Hadith Daif are accepted
Okay.
is when there's a case of, for example, a worship, right, that we know is established. For example, praying two rak'ah before Dhuhr, right? Something like this. And then there's a Hadith Daif saying that if you do so, you'll get a week of purified heart, whatever, right? Something like this. That's the only reason we would accept Hadith Daif. We don't accept it in anything that is new. We also don't accept it in
Yeah, that's
Sharia.
modern.
We don't accept it in... No, that's the way it is.
No, that's a modern invention. I'm gonna read to you Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani on this.
No, read to me Bukhari. Show me Bukhari using it.
Yeah.
But Ibn
Oh,
Hajar,
Bukhari.
oh yeah, he has a whole entire works of Daif hadiths.
Yeah, show me. Show me, because when he did the Sahihain...
Al-Mufrad.
Yes, we know the Quran is Daif Hadith. Okay, we know that. Muslim. Let's continue now.
Okay, can you give me an example of a Hadith Daif that Bukhari used?
I
for
think-
Sharia?
Yeah, I just
I
gave you
think
Al-Mufrad. It's a whole entire example of
If I
that.
may,
No,
I
send
think
me
if we
one
get
rule.
bogged down.
Go
I
ahead.
think we get bogged down in
Yeah.
like
In rabbit
the
hole.
question of sanad. It's going to be non-productive and boring, right? So
Yeah.
I think the more interesting question that we were talking about before was regarding the Quran and why anyone should believe that the Quran has a divine source. I think
So
That's the interesting question.
you're right, sir. So the important point is that the gentleman before said that I read the Sirah and I was convinced, and the Quran, that Muhammad cannot possibly lie. Yet, if we take a closer look, Muhammad seems to have the most obvious lies ever told in human history.
Where?
The one I
Where?
show you, sir. So how you
Yeah, I just
how
said-
you
I just
concluded?
said-
Okay, so I can give you
just said
the
that's your opinion.
tafsir if you would allow me.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is about that. Yeah, nobody should enter the house of the prophet unless they are giving what is it like in English?
Invited? Yeah.
Invited. That was referring to those people who have no like they would just go before there was any food, as like the verse is talking about that if there was food in the house, right?
Yeah.
So they were it's talking about that the prophet is shy to tell them that. So the revelation came as you shouldn't just go to the house of the prophet. You know, the house was like one room, right?
Sir,
one
sir.
room. And
Yes,
so
I know,
so
I know.
if there's a lot of people coming, let me finish. There's a lot of people coming in, and there's some the message is not for those who believe those people who knows how to enter the houses. No, we're talking about those people who just come to the house with just sit there with no food, and they're just sitting and being very.
So Muhammad was shy to tell his visitors not to come early, and he
because he is righteous.
Yes. Okay. And he called his butler Allah to tell his visitors not to come early for dinner.
He didn't
What
call
if?
anyone.
That's
One second, sir. One second, sir. Because that is beyond.
They always do.
So he didn't call anyone. God just sent the message. He didn't
Sir,
call
one
anyone.
second, sir. If somebody knocks my door and say, Allah, I'm bored to open the door, please go open the door.
Well, he always invited people. What's the problem? We're
Yes,
talking about
here's
those
the
people
issue.
who
Here's
have
the
no,
issue as well.
no
Here's the issue as
decency.
well.
Do you seriously think
Can you-
that God, wait just a moment, that said nothing,
So
that said
okay,
nothing,
let me come in.
one second,
yeah,
one
no,
second,
yeah,
please,
yeah.
sir,
shut up. No
one
one wants to
second,
talk.
sir.
Okay,
Do you
so-
seriously
yeah.
believe that God that said nothing in World War II, he just said Muhammad's visitors not to come early for a chat before the meal
Okay,
is
so yeah,
ready?
so
Yes.
Are you serious?
Okay,
Is not,
so
is
let
not
me-
shy from telling the truth.
Yeah,
It's
okay,
telling
okay.
the truth.
Yes,
Benny,
yes.
Benny,
Benny,
I think this
Benny,
is
brother,
It's little.
please.
Let me land,
please
let
Say
me
one
land.
single
derail.
instance.
Benny,
Okay,
bro,
let me come in,
Yeah,
bro.
he's
Let
gonna
me
derail.
come
He's
in.
gonna derail.
Benny,
Is there
bro,
one
you're just
single
gonna
instance?
derail
What's
like
wrong with
you
you?
Is there one
always
single
do.
instance?
talking in the
Just
same
shut
No,
up.
I'm not derailing. So,
I'm asking. So I'm
talking at the
asking
same
a
time.
question. I'm asking a question.
no, no,
Is there a
I'm
single-
trying to
Benny,
come in.
I'm gonna
Bro,
mute
you're
you.
cutting me.
Benny, I'm gonna mute
Well,
you.
what? You come into
So is there a single?
our room to mute me.
Is there, I've been here and you just literally came in.
Why you
Is there a
mute me?
single?
Let me land.
But I want to talk, bro. Can I talk for a second? Okay,
Just
thank you.
hanging
Is there
there.
a
I need to
single
land,
instance?
bro.
Guys, Muslims, remember the contrast. The gentleman in the beginning of this video, he said, I read the Sirah, I was so amazed. Muhammad cannot possibly lie. It's obvious. I mean, whoever says Muhammad lied, he's crazy, in other words. Whoever says Muhammad lied, he's crazy. Cannot possibly, it's impossible. Okay. And in a closer look, what we saw, the most obvious lies ever told in human history. Okay. That's how your confidence looks in a closer look. Muslims. You know, contemplate that.